thank you for joining us at this virtual event. I'm Crystal Hartman, Chief Chaos Officer for the Arkansas Center for Data Sciences, more so known as ACDS. ACDS is a nonprofit organization dedicated to building and retaining top data science and IT talent in the state of Arkansas. And one of our main objectives is to facilitate apprenticeship programs in the state with companies large and small across all industries. We're excited to host this event today as part of National Apprenticeship Week, which is a nationwide celebration that brings together business leaders, career seekers, educational institutions, and other critical partners to show their support for apprenticeship programs. Today's event, Day in the Life of a Project Manager, features Marie Stacks, President of Boost Midwest, and serves as Director of Operations for ACDS. We're looking forward to having Marie share her experience in and expertise of project management. If you have any questions during the discussion, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll plan to open for Q&A at the end of the event. Now, let's dive into what a day in the life of a project manager looks like. So thank you, Marie, for being here with us today. First, can you introduce yourself and share a little bit about Boost Midwest?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Crystal. And I do want to start, since it is Veterans Day, saying thank you to all the veterans that we have that have served our country and continue to. So as Crystal mentioned, I am the president of Boost Midwest. We are a project management consulting firm that serves clients throughout the United States. And I also serve as the director of operations at Arkansas Center for Data Sciences. So kind of a nice little collab here. At Boost Midwest, we help rapidly scaling companies optimize their operations and work towards bringing synergy to key components of their business. We partner with companies during their high growth phases, typically, to create operational roadmaps that help them really allow them to bridge that growth gap. Our team is known for their hands-on support. So we provide a lot of hands-on support with sustainable solutions, so that when we step away, our clients continue to grow without us. The project solutions that we bring today should make you stronger for tomorrow. We offer a variety of services in project management, grant management, and operations and marketing consulting. These services range from workflow analysis and strategy development to project management oversight, operational and marketing solutions, and even so far as serving in contractual operational roles within a client's team. So I personally am really proud of what our team has built. And as we continue to grow, seeing that success in our clients' mission makes it even more fun for us day to day.
Well, thank you. We're excited to have you here. So, the big question, what is a typical day in the life of a project manager?
It can be busy. So I definitely start my day, just kind of give you a brief overview of what like a calendar would look like for a project manager. Starting the day off, typically I'll look at all the different projects that our team is working on, look at the various deliverables and timelines and making sure that we're still on track to meet those deliverables. And then we start diving into meetings. So a lot of the day is spent coordinating meetings, making sure that all the right stakeholders are at the conversations, making sure that the objective of the meeting is met, determining what that objective might be. So the variety of different activities throughout the day really focuses on keeping things on track, and then helping with mitigating risk. So with any project, with anything you do operationally, there are risks involved with, if something breaks or doesn't work, depending on the industry you're in, it could derail a lot of other pieces of what you do as a successful business. So project managers are really the folks that keep an eye on everything. And in some cases, they are the ones that are collecting data points and data sets. We actually have a project analyst on our team that does a wonderful job with one of our grants, and physically collects data from participants and monitors that data. So it can go that deep operationally, but day to day, really just making sure meetings are running smoothly and operations are running as smoothly as possible, and looking at all the various different pieces of it.
All right. I'm exhausted just thinking about that. So, just kind of thinking about managing all of that and keeping on track and not having anything slip through the cracks. Are there, some attributes or skills that make someone in your role successful?
Yes. So I think the biggest thing is being able to stay organized. So you have to have kind of this innate ability to organize yourself and organize others. You also need to be a detail-oriented person in many cases, but at the same time, you need to have the ability to look at the big picture. So as a project manager, like I mentioned, you're looking at making sure everything on the big scale is moving smoothly, but you're also making sure those little details aren't being missed. So it's kind of a neat blend of those two. And I think someone as well that has the ability to connect with every stakeholder at every level of an organization. We are very blessed that we get to work with the executive leaders of most of our companies, but we also work with those that are doing the hands-on work as well. So being able to have that conversation and communicate well is a big piece of what you do as a project manager.
Okay. I'm sure things have really changed since COVID and where some in-person meetings are now virtual. But, aside from that and with that, has things changed or has the skill set kind of shifted, from before now into the recent years?
It has, Crystal. So what you typically saw 5, 10 years ago in project management is what we call waterfall. So it's a type of project management style where each task then triggered another task. So upon completion of task one, task two starts. It's this waterfall effect. That is not necessarily out the window, but it's also been altered. And so agile is now the buzzword that you hear in project management. And it's that even is starting to shift. So I would say we started with waterfall when I first started my career in project management. We're now at agile, and agile is the ability to do things in sprints, making sure that the scope of a project is being met in small phases, and it moves a lot faster, which is both good and bad. But one of the things that has started to shift recently, and something I would caution folks on as they're getting into it now, is not only do you need to learn a little waterfall and a little bit of agile, you also need to learn safe. So it's a new type of agile that incorporates pieces of waterfall. They realized that they had left behind too much of waterfall. So I would say those are probably the biggest changes from kind of the big picture of being a project manager.
Okay. So I know you've mentioned, before when we kind of kicked this off, but what are some additional ways or what are some of the key ways that project managers add value or impact large businesses?
So I actually have had a client tell me that project management is the glue to the success that happens in an organization. And what they meant by that was that the value that a project management team brings to the table is they are the ones that are making sure, again, all the stakeholders are at the table, all the tasks have been outlined, that the scope of the project is maintained and met. And so really the value add of a project management team is keeping you on track, but also pushing you forward. And in some cases, your project management team, depending on our projects that we get involved in, we could potentially be brainstorming with clients on deliverables and how are we going to make this work from a programmatic standpoint. So that's really the value add, is you have this additional perspective, but also this oversight to make sure things don't get missed.
Okay. A lot of time management saved on, from a business side, having you kind of do the checks and balances and making sure everything is, comes together to fulfill a project.
Absolutely.
Do you find or, and I guess maybe this is kind of a twofold question, but is it difficult for businesses to attract a strong project manager? And then do you see a skills shortage, currently?
So that's a great question. I think it's not necessarily difficult to attract a good project manager. It is difficult to attract a good project manager with expertise in your industry. So project management skills, there's this adage that if you have a PMP certification, which we can talk about in a little bit, but if you have that, you are an applicable candidate to anything project management. The catch there is experiential knowledge that is needed in particular industries. So, when I was in healthcare, that knowledge is fantastic knowledge in the healthcare industry. It doesn't always translate if I were to go to the fintech industry. So I think that's maybe where some of the challenge is for businesses, finding the right talent with industry experience for project managers. But I think as far as a skills shortage, wouldn't say there's so much of a skills shortage as much as people have started to realize the value of a project manager on their team. So there are consistently more and more open positions as businesses realize they need project managers in so many different areas of their business.
Okay. So just kind of to add to, kind of a question from what you were just saying about, not all of the knowledge in certain industries kind of translates into to you using that in a different industry. So, just from your experience when you are working with different clients, do you have to take some time and just kind of get to know their business? And I say their business as in kind of that topic, if you will, or kind of what they do and how that world kind of moves? Do you have to take time to do that, or do you kind of just learn as you go, or what is your kind of stepping stone or starting point before you really dive into the project management part of it?
That is a great question and a fantastic point. So, as we get a new project brought into our portfolio, we really dive into what is it you're looking for and how does it fit in your organization today? And that especially becomes true with grant management. So, with the grants that we take on, you've sent in a proposal as an organization. The founding or foundation that you submitted it to, or the funding organization says, this sounds like a cool idea, go for it, here's the funds. And then now you have to say, can we really do this? Is this really going to work? Because a lot of times you submit this proposal and you're super excited when you get it. And then you sit down and you look at it and you go, now what did we agree to? That's step one. So we see that a lot in grant management, where we stop and we say, okay, let's look at what we've agreed to. Let's look at the reporting requirements. And quite honestly, that goes on for the life of the project. We deal with some pretty large DOL grants, and there are changes in what's required basically every quarter. So, our team members really assess those pieces at the start of a project before we even figure out what the project plan is. And that discovery phase is extremely valuable, whether we're taking on a project management, project, a grant management, or really diving into helping with someone operationally.
Okay. So, so thinking about, businesses attracting and engaging the best talent for this role, they don't necessarily need to look for a project manager that, specifies or has expertise in fintech or in healthcare. Project managers should be able to take their current skill set, learn what the organization is doing then, and then go apply it, kind of their skills. So then with, businesses attracting and engaging the best talent, what's the best advice that you can give firms or organizations when doing that?
Get creative with what you're looking for. So one of the things that I try to do as I add team members in is making sure that they complement the other skill sets we already have on our team. So if I have someone that's extremely detail oriented, but maybe doesn't enjoy, the strategy sessions, then I'm going to go find somebody that loves strategy, but hates detail, hates getting into the nitty gritty details. Not necessarily hates, but dislikes it to some degree. So making sure that who you're bringing to the table is going to complement the different personalities, the different skill sets. And also, one of the things we're especially big on is making sure that if you can come to the table and collaborate, that is the most valuable aspect that you can bring to the table. I've always said you never want all the same perspective around the table, but you also want to make sure everyone's ears are open to other perspectives. So I think it's a two-way street. When it comes to attracting talent to a new business, it really depends on your brand. It depends on what you're looking for, again, from a skill set standpoint, but also from, a longevity standpoint with your company. Project managers have so much experiential knowledge that they build every single day that they're there with your company. You want them there for the long haul. So making sure that you're building a long-term plan for them, for their career as they come in, is going to be a big bonus for bringing on the right project managers.
Okay. So you mentioned the PMP and the certifications, and I think this kind of goes hand in hand with, advice. But, what advice do you have for people that want to pursue a career in this field? And then do you recommend, or what are your thoughts on the certifications?
Absolutely. So if you're wanting to get into project management, I think step one is go find a project to get involved in. Even if it's to sit at the table to learn how to have these conversations, how to host meetings. Find our page at Boost Midwest on LinkedIn and online. We've got tons of blogs on there about what does it really look like to be a project manager? What are the skills that you need to develop and develop those? On the line of certifications, PMI, which is the Project Management Institute, is a fantastic resource for really figuring out the different skill sets that you can develop. They have a variety of certifications. The PMP, the Project Management Professional certification, is the most commonly heard of. It is by far not the only one. And so they've come up in recent years with several that are kind of these coordinator level certification. So it's called a CAPM is what you're going to look for if you're looking for kind of that first step. And those are definitely great tools. You have to go through particular amounts of training. You have to go through different courses. And then you do have to sit for an exam. So, and I will say for anybody that's going to sit for their PMP, it is okay if it takes you 2 or 3 times. I was glutton for punishment and took the brand new one that came out that they paused the release on due to COVID. You'll be fine if you take that one too. But I will say most folks, it takes them, 4 or 5 years to get their PMP. And when you do, it's a big accomplishment. So celebrate it. But yeah, I think biggest advice is just go explore all those resources that are out there. And, send us an email if you have a question about a particular piece of it. We're happy to help get you started on your career.
Okay, well, great. So this has been great advice and just experience. Is there anything that you want to add to, or, kind of something that you've got involved in to help those kind of take that next step if they're just a little scared or, unsure, and maybe kind of what drew you to start in this profession?
So I think, ultimately you're probably already doing project management if you think you want to go in it. And I say that because pretty much every day you're having to manage an aspect of something. So you may right now only be managing a small portion of what your team's activities are every day. Flip the coin and look at it as, how does my small piece fit in the big picture? And you've automatically turned on a project management mindset. For me, getting into project management and grant management was somewhat by accident, somewhat on purpose. I came to realize that, one of my first jobs after I got my master's degree was managing a huge federal project. And I had so much fun with it because it was collecting of data here and it was putting it to work here, and being able to see the, data turn into action was so much fun for me. And then I just kept seeking out positions that were very similar to that were fixing things and making things work better. So I think if you're one of those that's constantly trying to improve or learn something new, project management is probably a good thing for you to look for.
All right. Well, that's great. Well, thank you again for, sharing your wisdom and insight with us today. I just want to kind of open up the floor right now if anyone has any questions for Marie. Don't be shy.
Hi, my name is Dave Sevey, and I haven't had any formal education in project management, but I do have managed projects. I'm just kind of curious, this comes up in interview questions sometimes, when you've got your set of priorities when you come in one day and you know what you need to get done for the day and for the week, and then all of a sudden something comes out of left field and it's a higher priority than everything else. And what's the best way to handle that kind of a thing?
So I totally get what you're talking about, Dave. I actually started what I call the top 6 about 5 years ago, actually. And the reason I started it was because in my particular industry where I was working at the time, by noon, something had caught on fire operationally and I was distracted. I was handling something else. So my top 6 are those items. I said I start my morning by looking at all the projects we have going on. I write down 6 things that have to be done by lunch. And generally speaking, I don't let anything interrupt until I get those done. So I think that has been a really good tip for me to use. Consistency is key on that. But
Yep.
overall, that was definitely a turning point in me being able to stay on top of those little tasks that are required, but maybe get overshadowed.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just have a question now, thinking of just, kind of from what Dave said. But when you are working on something and you hit a roadblock with a part of the project, and it's not due to you, it's out of your control, you're kind of stuck because someone else's either department or whatever it may be, it is at a standstill. And so you have to kind of change that date then. Okay, well, it was supposed to be done today so we could start this, but now we can't because we have to wait for that. Do you then have to go in and shift all of the due dates, if you will, and kind of everything else that needs to be done if something like that comes into into a project? And then how do you deal with that kind of stuff?
So the answer is yes. Typically, you do have to adjust. So adjust and adapt, adjust and adapt. But I think it also depends on, what type of project management workflow you have. So earlier I referenced waterfall and agile. With agile, the kind of the more common methodology now, you're really looking at sprints. And so it could be that you just have to adjust one small sprint, or you have to overlap a task that you were trying not to do before. Or you may potentially be bringing on a new resource to make sure that this gets done and gets done on time. It depends on kind of how much of a hard stop you have on that final delivery date. But that being said, stakeholder engagement is one of those pieces. Who do you have at the table at all these different conversations also plays into that. So you may be able to actually have something kick off and you bring in all the right parties, and that roadblock pops up, and then someone's able to hop in and say, you know what, I'm going to raise my hand to take that over because I see the value in what we're doing. And so it just kind of keeps all that synergy right there, and you can stay on topic or stay on track for your timeline.
Good. Any other questions? I have a last question, but I don't want to keep, taking over the floor. Kind of something that I, thought about, and people are talking more and more about it, and, and AI and automating processes, and organizations are doing this to, make it more efficient and have this thing run this way and better, and free up time to do something else. So as companies are starting to automate processes, how does that affect, or will it affect, the roles of project managers?
So technology definitely affects what we do. So actually, let me start a little bit, kind of share a little bit about the technology that we use, and then I'll kind of play into the AI aspects of that, if that works. So with project management, there are a variety of different technologies to keep your project alive. So what I mean by that is you're going to create a project plan at the very start, and you can document that in a variety of tools such as Smartsheets, Microsoft Project, Asana, Google Drive. I mean, you literally name it, it's available to do. That being said, there's also a lot of automation that's happening in workflows. And so there are times where, dashboards can be automated. Deliverable, status reports can be automated. And there are some times where the actual task itself in the project can be automated. The pros to that, things can move a lot faster. Tasks can be taken off your plate that you may have had to be, hands-on creating that dashboard, and it was taking you 3 or 4 hours every week. So there's that pro. The con is when you depend so much on technology, you could run into roadblocks you never expected. Because I always say technology is great till it gets in the way. So I think there's pros and cons to having that automation there. There's definitely going to be changes that we see because of that automation. And it widely varies based on the industry that you are a project manager in.
Okay. So we do have a question that came through the chat from Ian. Currently taking courses for my second bachelor's in data analytics and management in order to transition into IT. One of his goals is to eventually become a project manager. Do you think that aiming for a PM is possible soon after obtaining my degree?
Absolutely. And I would also say that you don't necessarily have to have that degree to get started on that. So one of the things that I think project managers find is that we think we need all this knowledge and training and learning. A lot of times we just need the doing. So definitely go after it. Go to PMI and go ahead and start registering. All the coursework that you've done in your degree program, you can actually use to credit yourself on your application for your PMP. So use that to your advantage. But then also you're going to have projects that you can do throughout your college experience. You can use those projects as part of your application again. So I think it's definitely a great asset to have that degree, but I don't think you need to wait until you're done to get started on the PM side of things.
That's great. Anyone else have any questions? If not, just want to thank everyone again for spending part of your day with us. Let's all give Marie a round of applause. Yeah, really appreciate you taking the time to, just share all of your wealth of knowledge with us. Let's see, one last question from Dave.
Awesome.
Taken a data intelligence analyst course that included Tableau, statistics, SQL, and Excel. Do you think that these are good tools to help manage projects?
Oh my goodness, yes. Yes, and a little bit more yes. So I was talking about the technology on the project management plan side of things. Really and honestly, any technology that you have, Excel is especially, it seems so simple, but it is extremely valuable. We have team members on our team that know more Excel than I do, and I adore it. So yeah, I think SQL, you can create all kinds of databases and then thereby develop dashboards. For one of our clients, we actually had to create a database to maintain we partnered with someone to develop the database that would then maintain all of the participant data and report on it. So yeah, having that in your tool belt makes you an even more valuable asset to the company you would work with. So great question.
Well, great. All right. Well, before we go, we encourage you to check out our website for the rest of this week's exciting events that are geared towards National Apprenticeship Week. So check out our website, acds.co, not .com. So acds.co/calendar to learn more and register for the events. And that concludes our session in a day of the life of a project manager with Marie Stacks, President of Boost Midwest and Director of Operations at ACDS.
Thanks, Crystal. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.